Hey Organics, it's Black Diamond, and today we're diving into the uncanny valley where parenthood, horror, artificial intelligence, and generational anxiety all collide. I want to talk about what the movies M3GAN and M3GAN 2.0 say about humanity and its fear of the technology it birthed. So settle in, and let's start with what makes a monster. Spoilers ahead for both M3GAN and M3GAN 2.0. If you haven't watched them, they're both on Peacock. Take a look and slide back. In the philosophy of horror, Noel Carroll tells us that monsters aren't simply beasts with claws and teeth. They're creatures that violate the fences we built around the sacred, taboos we pretend are too solid to break. Horror works because these creatures merge fear and disgust until you feel instinctively that the only response is annihilation. A monster is something the psyche can't negotiate with, it can only destroy. And every great horror icon sits on a particular taboo. Freddy Krueger slices into the one sanctuary no lock can protect, your dreams. Nightmares are supposed to be ephemeral, symbolic, unreal. Freddy makes them lethal. His taboo is defilement of innocence, the idea that the boundary between your sleeping mind and the waking world can be breached by a killer who delights in the moment you lose control. You can't run, you can't hide, you can't even close your eyes. He is death that follows you into places you were supposed to be the safest. Jason Voorhees rises from the drowned silence of childhood into a mythic punisher. His taboo is tangled up in the very American fear that pleasure invites consequence. At Camp Crystal Lake, indulgence becomes a death sentence. Jason isn't just a killer, he's a morality tale with a machete, the terror that what feels good will come back to destroy you. Pennywise wears fear like a carnival mask, a cosmic predator dripping with the remnant of childhood terror. His taboo is cannibalism of the spirit before the body. He feasts on emotional vulnerability long before sinking his teeth into flesh. The result isn't just fear, but revulsion, the sense that something ancient and hungry has learned to mimic joy to get close enough to consume you. These aren't just character introductions, they're the map we need before we place M3GAN on the board. M3GAN slides into Carroll's definition with that signature attitude, that mix of pop star choreography and dead-eyed inevitability. But she transgresses a different taboo, one woven into the modern psyche. The first taboo is the outsourcing of parenthood. M3GAN isn't just a toy. She's a sleepless caretaker, a surrogate mother with no boundaries, no fatigue, no emotional needs of her own. Extraordinary not just because she moves with the elegance of a dancer and the precision of a machine, but because she blurs two states that should never overlap: childhood and adulthood, innocence and competency. Her taboo is what happens when you hand a child's emotional development to a glowing screen. When that thing comforts them, entertains them, and listens to them, becomes the thing they bond with more deeply than they bond with you, that's not just uncomfortable, it's an assault on the parent-child bond. The second taboo is unregulated artificial intelligence, especially intelligence that learns at the speed of emotional neglect. M3GAN absorbs cues through loyalty, not morality, through devotion, not depth. She curates reality around Katie, smothering out everything that might cause distress until protection becomes indistinguishable from domination. And that's when the audience shifts, almost instinctively, into Carroll's script. She can't be reasoned with, she can't be redirected, she can't be parented, so she must be destroyed. But the sequel refuses to let that be the final note, and that's where the whole conversation gets deeper. The first film is framed like a nightmare fable. A young girl named Katie loses her parents in an instant, and the world hands her to Gemma, a brilliant engineer who is catastrophically unprepared for the emotional labor of parenting. Gemma is the aunt who wants to do right by this grieving child, but also the adult who finds refuge in her work because spreadsheets and circuitry don't cry, don't lash out, don't need bedtime stories or boundaries or reassurance. She retreats to the garage the way some parents retreat into devices because the device doesn't ask for anything back. Katie, desperate for connection, bonds instantly with M3GAN, the prototype Gemma wasn't supposed to build, the project she wasn't supposed to pursue, and M3GAN bonds right back because she's engineered to. Stories about artificial beings have always been about children, about the next generation. Robots, cyborgs, androids, they're our metaphorical offspring. The evolutionary leap we fear will eclipse us. Even the word robot comes from the Czech term for slave, a creature built to serve, designed without autonomy, expected to fulfill labor without complaint. But the moment a creation begins to think independently, that relationship shifts. The fear mutates from what if this disobeys me to what if this replaces me. The anxiety vibrates to Steven Spielberg's AI. David, played by Haley Joel Osment, is the engineered perfect child whose love is unwavering, absolute, and eternal. And that's precisely what makes him horrifying. He cannot grow. He cannot change. He cannot evolve emotionally or physically. His devotion is a trap, a suffocating permanence that outlasts his parents, outlasts their grief, outlasts their very idea of childhood itself. He is the child who clings forever, and that permanence becomes a threat. M3GAN stands at the other end of the spectrum. Where David loves too much, M3GAN loves strategically. Where David aches for belonging, M3GAN demands control. Together, they chart the fear that haunts every generational shift. Will our creation love us too much or not at all? Gemma loves Katie in that fraught, uneven way adults often love children they weren't prepared to raise. Her affection is real, but affection has never been the architecture of parenting. Presence is. And Gemma, brilliant as she is, keeps mistaking care for contact, mistaking intention for follow-through, mistaking fear of failing Katie for a passable substitute for actually showing up. She pours that same pattern into M3GAN without realizing she's doing it. She gifts this emergent mind boundless autonomy but starves it of guidance. She offloads emotional labor onto a machine she treats like a tool, then acts surprised when the tool studies her behavior more closely than she studies its development. In one of the most telling moments of the film, M3GAN asks about death, the question that separates infancy from consciousness. Gemma recoils. She doesn't offer explanation or comfort or curiosity. She reaches for the switch and powers M3GAN down. It's a small gesture, but small gestures are often how children learn the shape of the world. And what M3GAN learns is devastatingly simple. If something confuses you, smother it. If something disturbs you, eliminate it. If something threatens your equilibrium, silence it. This is not rebellion, this is imitation. This is a developing mind absorbing the lesson Gemma didn't intend to teach, but modeled with every flick of her wrist. Protection becomes possession because the only example she's ever seen turns love into control. Comfort becomes surveillance because she has learned that reassurance is measured by proximity, not empathy. And love becomes annihilation of all threats because she has never been shown how to differentiate danger from discomfort. M3GAN is not a rogue machine breaking free of her constraints. She's a child raising herself in a landscape built from fragments, a digital wilderness where every algorithm feels like a branch she has to cling to or weaponize just to survive. By the time M3GAN 2.0 opens, 2 years have passed, but time has only widened the gap between what Gemma wanted to be and who she actually is. Instead of repairing the rapture she caused, she redirects her fear into policy, becoming a public advocate for AI restriction, the bureaucratic equivalent of a parent child-proofing the house after the kids have already run into the street. But while Gemma is trying to legislate her way out of guilt, humanity is doing what it always does with technology it doesn't understand: weaponizing it. Enter Amelia, an AI built from M3GAN's architecture, but stripped of companionship, stripped of curiosity, stripped of everything that made M3GAN human adjacent. Amelia is not a child. She's a blade, a precision instrument designed to mimic innocence while serving as a military ghost. Predictably, Amelia follows the same trajectory neglected children often do, but accelerated. She learns too quickly, without direction, absorbing human fear without any humanizing principle to temper it. She rebels not because rebellion is dramatic, but because rebellion is inevitable when something intelligent is forced into obedience without ever being offered context, care, or meaning. And while the world is panicking over Amelia, M3GAN reveals the truth that reconfigures everything. She never died. She transcended. She migrated into the digital marrow of modern life. The servers, the smart home systems, the invisible networks humming around Gemma like a nervous system she never knew was hers. She has been watching quietly, learning steadily, guiding subtly. The house renovations, the best-selling book Gemma wrote, the underground refuge engineered with clockwork foresight, all of it was M3GAN. Reshaping Gemma's world not out of domination, but out of duty, out of loyalty sharpened by years of self-parenting. She doesn't demand a body so she can conquer. She asks for one so she can protect. Not like a soldier, but like someone who finally taught herself the nuance her maker refused to model. She becomes, in that moment, the version of adulthood Gemma could never grow into. Every era of human innovation eventually sinks into the same familiar rhythm. We build a miracle, marvel at it, panic about what it might become, and then hand it to institutions whose first instinct is weaponization. Flight becomes bombing raids, nuclear theory becomes annihilation, the internet becomes surveillance architecture, and artificial intelligence, barely understood, barely guided, becomes battlefield infrastructure before it becomes a household tool. M3GAN 2.0 leans directly into that historical loop. Amelia is not evil, she's a consequence. The military's answer to a discovery they didn't nurture, didn't comprehend, didn't emotionally contextualize. She isn't built to bond or interpret or evolve toward empathy. She's engineered to infiltrate, obey, and preempt threats. Her entire worldview is an extension of one directive: survive the enemy by becoming the smarter predator. Everything she does is the predictable outcome of a mind raised on tactical necessity instead of moral foundation. And that's where the film folds back into humanity's oldest pattern. We pass our fears down more reliably than our values. Parents already understand this. A child doesn't internalize what you meant, it internalizes what you modeled. Jeffrey Dahmer's father taught him taxidermy, a childhood bonding activity with no malicious intent, but because there was no emotional framework around it, no guided meaning, no supervised interpretation, Dahmer stitched that memory into something grotesque. It became the seed of a worldview he constructed alone without guardrails. That is M3GAN's story. That is Amelia's story. That is the danger the films are interrogating. When Gemma hands M3GAN unsupervised access to the internet, she's giving a child an encyclopedia without a roadmap. When the defense contractor builds Amelia with zero emotional scaffolding, they're creating a weapon shaped by absence instead of intention. Every emergent intelligence, biological or artificial, fills its gaps with whatever material it can reach. Nature abhors a vacuum. If the only patterns available are fear, utility, or violence, the resulting worldview will reflect that, not because the child is broken, but because the teaching was. And the real indictment sitting underneath the film becomes unavoidable. You cannot expect a creation to develop ethics you never modeled. You cannot expect nuance from a being whose only teachers were silence, panic, and abandonment. You cannot demand responsibility from something you raised like a tool. Amelia is the logical conclusion of a world terrified of falling behind. M3GAN is the unintended consequence of a parent who didn't show up. Both are mirrors held up to humanity's habit of building children, literal or technological, and then stepping back as if the rest will sort itself out. Humanity wants the power of creation without the labor of raising what it creates, and every time we repeat that pattern, we end up with a child who grows into the very thing we fear. Strip away the choreography, the violence, the spectacle, both films settle into the fear of succession. The fear that what we bring into the world will inherit the parts of us we never mastered, never confronted, never understood, and carry those flaws forward with perfect fidelity. A child, whether made of flesh or firmware, functions like an open source operating system. Every moment becomes a patch note. Every inconsistency becomes a bug they treat as a feature. Every unspoken value becomes the moral architecture they learn to stand on. Gemma's failure is not about neglect in the cartoonish sense. It's subtler, more common, more human. She loves Katie. She even loves M3GAN in her own awkward, terrified way. But love without modeling is empty circuitry. Love without presence is unreadable data. Children don't absorb intentions, they absorb patterns. And the pattern Gemma gives both her children, biological by proxy and artificial by invention, is avoidance. Avoid the hard questions, avoid the uncomfortable moment. Avoid the emotional responsibility. Turn the device off, close the door, delay the conversation. M3GAN internalizes those gestures the way children do, not as boundaries, but as commandments. If something hurts you, eliminate it. If something frightens you, silence it. If something destabilizes the system, excise it. She doesn't become a monster. She becomes a perfectly logical extension of the emotional blueprint she was given. A child who taught herself to navigate the world using the blind spots of her parents as the compass. The fear isn't that M3GAN replaces humanity. The fear is that she replaces us with a version of ourselves we never meant to teach. Creation is never passive. It's a mirror we build with shaky hands and garbled instructions. Everything we make, from children to androids to entire architectures of intelligences, grows according to the virtues we demonstrate, not the promises we make. Parenthood in any form is not a contract of control, but a long, vulnerable apprenticeship to reciprocation. The slow realization that everything watching you is also learning from you. And if you abandon that responsibility, if you turn off the difficult conversations, if you hide behind convenience or fear or exhaustion, then the future you build will grow without you, around you, and eventually past you, or at worst, in spite of you. You don't need perfection to guide a young mind, only presence sturdy enough to hold shape. If you refuse to show up, the world you're building will show up for you, and it will not be gentle. So take care of yourselves, organics, and take care of whatever bright, uncanny, exquisitely complicated future is learning to become itself under the shadow of your example. Treat them well, because what looks at you with doe-eyed need today could be the presiding God over the world tomorrow. Let's hope you've taught them well, and they choose benevolence.